The second type of learning is what I consider to be motivated learning. When an operator engages in this type of learning, they naturally tend to question why and have a tendency to investigate, to try to research, to try to figure it out and try to get to an answer. This learning comes from within an operator and usually cannot be taught. This type of learning is usually done by those operators who care about what they do. They care about being the best. They care about advancing as much as possible in their role and their function. These top operators are usually not willing to wait out the normal process of advancement, as I described previously before. And they're always wanting to speed everything up as quickly as possible. They want their advancement to be here much quicker. They want to be the best that they can be and will settle for nothing less than that. So what is motivated learning? I consider motivated learning to be any job relating learning that involves going above and beyond what is naturally learned on the job through just day-to-day experiences, and that requires that the operator put in extra time, extra energy, more motivation, and mental strength and stamina to acquire this type of understanding and learning. One thing about motivated learning is that the fruits of this type of labor are not immediately seen. It takes time, it takes perseverance, persistence, patience, and you will not see the fruits of this immediately. If you don't have your why set in place at the very beginning, like, why are you wanting to do this type of learning? Why are you willing to put in this time, that extra time and energy and effort, into doing this? If you don't have that cemented from the very beginning, then you will immediately fall back. Well, at least eventually you will fall back into, not so productive habits, and, you'll end up going back to some sort of laziness and just screen sucking, so to speak. You will start, if you don't have the motivation and you don't have that clear why at the very beginning, sure, you may start strong in doing this, but you will not have the enthusiasm, motivation, and the grit and determination necessary in order to continue to actually see the results, which can take some time, because the results of these actions may not become evident as quickly as you think or as quickly as you would like it to be. So how can you as an operator effectively begin to do motivated learning? Well, I believe that there are 7 things that you can do that can help you to accelerate your learning and help you to stand head and shoulders above others. So number 1, always ask why. Whenever you encounter a situation in the control room environment, that just sometimes leave you scratching your head, because you're not always going to know why. You're not always going to understand. It is in those moments where you have one or two choices. You could just take it as, whatever, just blow it off and let it go. Or you can actually just take your time to think and eventually say, hey, you know what? I want to find out why. I want to find out what happened. So in those moments, be proactive. Ask yourself, what just happened? What were the actions taken? Why were those actions taken? And are there other possible options and other possible things that could have been done to get the exact same result? Number 2, once you start questioning, always follow through with it. Always try to get your answer. If you don't have the time to seek and to try to find out and get your answer right at that moment, write it down. Take your time at a later point where once you have some downtime, whatever you wrote down, you can always go back and then ask, research, find out, go to other more experienced operators and get them to explain to you and answer some of the questions that you have. You can also do research on the internet. Rerun the scenario in your head. Take your time through each step of the event to get really a good grip of what happened and why. Number 3, read through all your emails. In a control room environment, it is not unusual for operators to receive on average between 50 to 100 emails a day. And these are a lot of emails. And the good thing about these emails is that an operator can pick up and learn so much about their job and their duties and their function and their relationships with other departments and other people, and just the overall duties and responsibilities and functions of what they need to do just within these emails. When you're reading these emails, try to take your time and read them thoroughly if you have the time. And, just try to figure out, who is sending this email? Who is this email being directed to? Why are these people being involved in this email chain? How was the email written? What was included in this type of email? How effective and detailed was it in conveying the message? What concepts are being discussed? If you don't understand the concepts, the relationships between the people involved, or, just even why the email was sent in the first place, ask, research, try to ask other people who have more experience and time under their belt than you. They'll usually give you the answers, and I hope you understand. And if not, pick up the phone, call somebody, or if you want to take that extra step, call that person who sent that email. Start having a simple chat and ask them, so that way they can educate you and help you to understand the reason and the purpose of all these emails being sent. Number 4, work the full shift. If you look around within any control room environment, you'll find that on average, an average operator will be busy. Pretty much everybody takes care of the business, right? Nobody in a control room environment usually lets things be, and everybody typically, on average, will do what they got to do. They'll take care of business because that is what they're getting paid for. And once the dust settles and everything is completed, the average operator will usually just sit in the chair and then begin to screen suck. And they'll probably allow time to just use that downtime to just, unwind, distract themselves, entertain themselves. And usually, they'll either do this until the end of their shift or until another issue, problem, or situation arises, in which then they start, taking care of business. Usually hours go by and nothing usually gets done in those moments, of their downtime. I would recommend and suggest that you don't let this be you. Don't be that type of operator. But then again, that's really up to you. Everybody has their own choice. Use that downtime to research, read, investigate, analyze. There's so much that can be done, and there's usually quite a bit of hours of downtime that an operator has more than enough time to utilize that and learn, be proactive, and to try to just find out and educate themselves more about their job. If you spend the full shift being busy, doing something, learning something for 12 hours, the amount of hours, day in, day out, of knowledge and experience that you will gain, you will far surpass and accelerate your advancement compared to those who just decide to just sit around not do anything on their downtime and just scroll through the screen. Number 5, analyze prints, circuits, streets, geography, and basically just your overall system. This is pretty much simple and straightforward, and you may be asking yourself, why in the world would you put something like this? Well, you have to understand and know the essentials of your job. And this pretty much goes down to the very basics of being an operator. You have to understand your substations. You have to understand circuits. You have to understand where the paths of these circuits run. You have to understand cities within your region, your area of control. You have to understand the subdivisions where the people are located at, streets. You have to understand geography. All of this plays a role when doing your day-to-day tasks. This is simple and straightforward, but do operators actually do it? Do they actually take the time on their downtime to really study this and go through it and learn it? Not really. The amount of operators that use their downtime to analyze the simple basics and simple essentials of the job is slim. Now, granted, not all control rooms are the same, right? Typically in a control room situation, the operators have already come from the field. They've already got their experience. They've already know the system. They already know the location. They already know the city. They already know what they're looking at. So once they come into the control room, they've already got that down. But if you don't, if you're not coming from the field, if you don't have that field experience from the control center coming in, you're going to have to do this work. You're going to have to put in this time and energy and effort. What those coming from the field already know, have already taken their time to educate themselves, gone through, they've already experienced, you know what's located where out in the system. If you are not coming from the field, you're going to have to take this time and put in that extra energy and effort to be able to at least get to that level of proficiency so that you can then understand what is going on. If you want to shorten that time frame and accelerate your learning, apply yourself to learn these basics. If you already don't have that knowledge and that experience, you'll be amazed how after just putting that time, that energy and effort to be able to do this effectively, proficiently, and at times you may be able to run circles around everybody because you already took the time to learn it. So please, do yourself a favor. If you don't understand the system out in the field, if you don't come from the field, and you have to learn this, do the work. Analyze it, study it, put in that time, that energy and effort. It'll pay off well over your career. Number 6, play the what if game. Out of all the important things, that help operators to respond and react better in emergencies and day-to-day tasks, this one overlooked concept is the key, in my opinion, that helps to unlock the thought process for an operator and helps to improve their response when they're under stress. On moments of downtime and moments where switching procedures are being created, take the time to stop and think about what you're working on. Think about the what if scenarios revolved around your task. What if, that switch doesn't open? What if that breaker grenades? What if that circuit trips out before, during, and after switching? What if that line faults? What if a fault occurs at this bus? What can we expect to open with a fault located here, there, and at this sub, at this line? Take your time to think about these situations. Think about what you should expect to see first. How will the system respond? And then think about what actions you should take. Think about it. Just write it down if you have to. You know, what should you do? Let's just say that event does occur, that what if scenario does occur. What should you do in order to remedy that situation? Play this mental game as many times as possible so that once the event occurs, all those mental reps will now come into play. And you won't be stuck with a deer in the headlights. You know, you won't be stuck frozen trying to figure out when the event actually occurs and you're stressed and you feel pressure. It's like, oh no, now you have to really think on your feet. All those mental reps will now allow you to think, to react, and to respond appropriately. And finally, number 7, read your department's procedures and manuals. You know, take your time to go over the day-to-day and emergency procedures that each control room typically has printed or located within the network drive. Read them, study them, understand them, and go through them multiple times until you understand the point that they are trying to convey. You know, you may not know every single detail, you may not know every single procedure off the top of your head, but at the very least, if you go over them, you at least develop a good understanding of what is located where, so that whenever a situation arises, you already automatically think, hey, you know what, I remember seeing this within this procedure. Oh, I remember reading about this over here. And then when you actually need it, going through that procedure, researching it, finding it, it'll help you out, and it'll help to ease that transition of utilizing the procedure when necessary. You know, you'll know where to look for it, you know where to go, and it'll make this transition and this process of knowing your processes and your department procedures a whole lot easier.